Welcome to day 5, opening statements in the open rescue trial of Baywatch actress Alexandra Paul and Alicia Santurio. We're going to go out to the courthouse, but first, let's bring you up to date.
Hi, Unchained. It's Alexandra. Thank you so much for being here and covering the trial. We really appreciate it.
These chickens were at a farm. It's called that euphemistically. It's really a holding facility where young chickens are fattened up in filthy conditions.
All right, let's go straight out to Curtis Vollmer, who's outside court. So much going on. Curtis, bring us up to date.
Yeah, so today, first thing that happened was opening statements by Kevin Little, who was representing Alicia Santurio. The state then called up a couple witnesses. The first one was the truck driver that was driving these trucks into the Foster Farms Livingston Slaughterhouse. Sorry, I think these are jurors actually that just walked out, so I got to be careful with what I'm saying. Let me get away. Yeah, okay, all right. So so after the truck driver gave their testimony, the next person up was the police officer that was on the scene or working that beat at the time that was reporting on the crime. Wayne then gave his opening statement on behalf of Alexandra Paul. And then what's happening right now, which I had to jet out of court so I could be on this live stream for, is Alicia Santurio's testament. Well, I guess I missed something in there. Wayne gave his opening on Alexandra. The first witness that the defense called up was Alicia Santurio. Chris Caraway, who's representing Alicia, one of them representing Alicia, went first. The state was doing their cross-examination when I left the courtroom about 5 minutes ago. And an interesting thing that happened, which is awesome. I'm really sad I can't be in there right now for it. But as I was leaving, I saw the bailiff go around and collect questions from the jurors. So like 4 or 5 of the jurors were like, before the cross-examination was even done, which there was probably going to be some recross, the counsel may be talking to Alicia for the next half an hour, who knows. The jurors were already submitting questions. They want to know more. So that's kind of where things are at right now.
Wow. Okay. Thank you for bringing us up to date. So what's really extraordinary about this case, and you know what? Scoot in, go in, Curtis, and come out in 10 minutes. I know you want to see it, so go. And come out when they come out, and you can bring us up to date in 20 minutes, because you can find out what she's saying and come out and tell us.
Well, I mean, I can tell you what's been said about anything if you want.
For sure.
So the opening statements, I don't know if you've been following on Twitter, but the prosecution's opening statement lasted like 5 minutes. I thought it was kind of pathetic, to be honest. It was really bad. It was just, you're going to see then this case is about people taking what's not theirs, and that's it. Like the whole thing literally lasted like 5 minutes. Kevin Little, on behalf of Alicia Santurio, talked for 15 minutes. They objected like almost immediately over something they said. I can't remember exactly what he said, but they objected almost immediately. He talked for about 15 minutes, trying to get you some juicy nuggets here from, Alicia was just getting grilled about value. So during cross-examination, the Atwell for the people was trying to get Alicia to admit that these chickens had some value. because like value is like a big thing in this case right now, and it's actually not even been determined what the jury instruction is going to be. Right now, the jury instruction is going to say that the chickens had to have some value. Our side is actually trying to argue, and the judge is going to reserve this until later. But our side is trying to say that like it should be some specific, like some market value, like some financial market value. That should be the litmus test here. And Atwell, on behalf of the state, was trying to get Alicia to admit that the chickens had some value. And her response to this question, which she asked like 3 times, was, "I loved these chickens. I cared for these chickens." So, you know, she never said that they had value. And then she went on to say, "I spent hundreds of dollars, if not thousands of dollars, caring for these chickens. These chickens were a liability to Foster Farms." So we're not playing into their game. Yeah, it's interesting to see how this is going to play out.
Curtis, excellent summary. Thank you so very much. Okay, I am absolutely stunned out of my mind that it took something like 4 days to select a jury, overwhelmingly female, by the way. And yet, after 4 days of grueling back and forth, now the prosecution has already done their very quick 5-minute opening statement, called their 2 witnesses, and are we on the defense case? This is wild. We've got 3 attorneys on our panel. So I want to start with Nathan Semmel, then we're going to go to the other attorneys. What the heck is going on, Nathan?
Jane, I'm not surprised, to be honest with you. I think I said last week that the prosecution is going to try to simplify this case as much as they possibly can. They're going to try to reduce this case to the 45-second video. This happened at Foster Farms. These chickens belong to them. Alexandra and Alicia stole them. That's the story they want to tell. Now, obviously, the defense, you don't normally see the defense opening 3 times as long as the prosecution opening, and that's because there is a context here. This is not a whodunit. This is a why was it done, and the defense is using its opportunity in its opening to tell that story to the jury.
Now, we have some great attorneys joining us as well, along with the amazing Nathan Semmel, who has been here for several days watching all this. I want to go out to Tara Melson. You're an intellectual property attorney, but what do you make of the fact that, is it overconfidence on the part of the prosecution? Like, oh, we're celebrating already, or what? That they would only spend about 5 minutes on their opening statement. You got to unmute.
Sorry about that. I actually very much agree with Nathan here. I actually think it may be more along the lines of perhaps they didn't realize that they were going to be receiving such public backlash and a lot of, I guess, emotionality coming from the community. And so, you really can't divorce that in a legal matter in any sort of a trial where you're appealing to jurors who are human beings, and despite their best efforts to, adhere to the letter of the law, there's always going to be an element, of human emotion involved. And I think at this point, they just sort of want to stick to black and white, have an open and shut case and hope that this goes away as quickly as possible. That's what I'm seeing here.
We have a little bit of the opening statement of Kevin Little, who is the attorney for Alicia Santurio, who's the co-defendant, along with the Baywatch actress Alexandra Paul. And we got a little snippet of what he said.
There were 2 chickens that were rescued in this case. One was named Ethan, and one is named Jax. These chickens were at a farm. It's called that euphemistically. It's really a holding facility where young chickens are fattened up in filthy conditions before they're loaded on a truck and transported for slaughter.
So, Christina Koo, as an attorney who's also an animal lover, what is your reaction to the fact that in the opening statement, the defense was able to get in the whole issue of animal cruelty?
Yeah, I really think this whole case is just, revolutionary in terms of getting the topic out, and major media is covering this. So that in itself, as a animal rights advocate, I'm thrilled to see that this is what we've been waiting for. So this is progress. And on the flip side, I mean, as far as a misdemeanor theft case, there are just so many broader elements to this that is expanding what your typical theft charges are and the typical criminal thoughts of what that case normally looks like. I mean, this is going beyond that, and it's really getting to the issues of why they did it, as the other attorney had stated. And I think that's really expanding the whole concept of this crime and how we address this in a different context. So I think this is real big progress.
So you're saying basically you think that history is being made here, even though the prosecution is kind of going old school, like nothing to see here. This is just an open and shut, theft case. They're missing the big picture. And I want to bring in some of our other activist commentators. Ellen Dent, activists are seeing history. The prosecution is treating this just like it's just another misdemeanor theft case, even though it took, 4 days to pick a jury? Ellen.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, no, we're absolutely seeing history being made. They're absolutely getting the public eye on this issue, and they're showing that they rescue these chickens versus, what they're calling they're stealing them. So that's exactly what they're trying to prove in this case, and I think that's what they're going to be able to do.
Yeah. And, again, it's not just a semantic question. It's a question, Donnie Moss, of how the jurors will perceive it. If the jurors think this is just an open and shut theft case, frankly, I think that's good for the prosecution. But if they start hearing things about animal cruelty and the case really, these chickens have, no intrinsic value to the company. They're headed into slaughter. And if they're sick, I don't know what happens to them. What do you make of how this case is going at really breakneck speed, Donnie?
Just by virtue of the fact that jurors are already asking questions this early in the trial, I think that's an indication that they don't see it as the black and white case that the prosecution wants to make. I also want to point out that this simplifying their quote crime as just a matter of stealing property, black and white, that's all it is. That was a mistake in the Smithfield trial. That didn't work, and the jury acquitted Wayne Chung, who's the defense attorney in this case, and Paul Darwin Pickelsheimer, who is another defendant in that pig trial. And so I feel like we're watching history repeat itself a bit here with these prosecutors sort of making a mistake about the jury. Granted, this is a different jury, but again, they're already asking questions. I also just want to point out one more thing, Jane, and that is in the defense attorney's opening remarks, he referred to the chickens by their names. I mean, he painted a picture of individuals in the same way that we would call our dogs by name. And that, it was just I thought it was a moving and powerful moment. And I can't help but think that the jurors were sort of taken aback by the fact that these two chickens had names and sort of what that means, what wheels are turning in their heads now that they perhaps see these chickens as individuals, not just as units of production, which is what the prosecution will make them out to be.
And I want to go to Dotsie Bausch, who was a dear friend of one of the defendants, Alexandra Paul, and also does an amazing podcast with Alexandra Paul called Switch for Good. You wanted me to point out that Alexandra, this is not her first rescue. There's another phrase that sounds like that we won't use because it's speciesist, but this is not her first rescue. Check out this video of a previous rescue that Alexandra Paul did with her twin sister that I'm looking for it now. I'm not trying to find it, but I may have to bring it up in a second. But anyway, there was a rescue of a calf that Alexandra was involved in, and she rescued this calf and took it out of a dairy where the calf was alone and really very ill.
Right. Yeah. she has a whole family who loves animals and stands up for the voiceless. And so she did that rescue with her twin sister. Her twin sister was a firefighter for many years, and Alexandra's always telling me how strong she is. And so Alexandra said, I lifted the calf out, to 75-pound calf, out of the crate, but my sister carried the calf all the way to the getaway car. And I know that her sister was there. I don't know if you all noticed on Friday, but you saw two people that looked exactly like Alexandra. That was Caroline, and she was there to support her sister. She had to leave, I think yesterday. She got to spend some time with her, and her brother's coming to support her tomorrow. So while you're looking for the video, I wanted to add, I think we've all talked a bit about, is the prosecution taking this case really as seriously as they should? And Alexandra, in her notes to me after Friday, she said, I'm very pleased with the jury. She said it is made up of what seems to be a very open-minded and thoughtful group of people. But she said, interestingly enough, that we, the defense, used up almost all of their preemptory challenges, which is the ability to take potential jurors out of consideration, as all the attorneys on here know. And she said that they have 20 challenges and the prosecution had 20, but the prosecution did not use a single one. The prosecution basically let them choose the jury. And she said, I'm not sure why the opposing attorneys didn't request any juror to be removed. So she said, I'm feeling it just a little odd about that. Is it either because they're so confident in this case, or is it Merced DA policy or something on a misdemeanor case not to use the challenges? But they're maybe saving them for something, or they're just asleep at the wheel, as it kind of sounds like from the opening statement today. They're not taking it maybe seriously enough.
Yes. And, I've seen that happen in many cases. I've mentioned covering a case, for example, a huge celebrity case like the Michael Jackson trial, where I was there when Tom Sneddon announced, even before the trial started, almost victory. Hey, reporters, go and spend a lot of money in town. He was celebrating before the trial started. And as we all know, whatever you think of the case, Michael Jackson was acquitted on all counts. You had the same thing with the Casey Anthony trial, where it was considered an open and shut case, and that, there was no way that she was going to walk. And what was she convicted of? Lying. She was not convicted. She was acquitted in the murder of her daughter. So, these cases that are considered open and shut are not necessarily open and shut. Zara, I want to go to you as an activist. Along with Ellen Dent, you are an activist who goes to pig vigils and who goes to other events. As a person who might be somebody who would be on the jury, as an animal lover, do you think you would just accept that this is just a theft case? I have to stay within the narrow confines of that, or can I care about animal cruelty?
No, of course. I think the context is it's vital here, where I think each jury member could sit and think, if they saw a bird dying on the street, would they rescue it? Regardless of if it belongs to someone, or if it's if it's an injured bird. We all know that majority of people would rescue these birds if they saw that they were suffering. So it's more a case of putting this to trial to make a stand and make a point that we should have a right to rescue.
Yes, and here is the video at the center of the case. You see here Alexandra Paul and Alicia Santurio running with the two chickens. And I have to say that one of the most interesting things that I have seen so far is that normally you would have the prosecution playing the video of the alleged crime caught on tape. But in this case, you actually have the defense in their opening statement playing that video. So I'm going to play a little bit of that video, and let's talk about that. That's an upside down world.
Ms. Santurio and Ms. Paul reasonably believed that the choice was to do nothing or to act. And they decided to act. And this whole incident, which I think spans some 45 or so seconds, is on video. And as part of my opening presentation, I want to show you that video.
So isn't that extraordinary? Gosh, Curtis, what was it like being inside the court and seeing the video that is normally what the prosecution plays, played by the defense?
Sure. Yeah. So I was just I was just eyeballing the jury. I was just trying to like see, you know, who was reacting to it, who might be moved by it, you know, see who might be on our side. I wasn't really watching the video. I was just, you know, trying to go down the line of the jurors and see what their reaction was by it. And I think we got you know, more than a couple, maybe 2-3 people that are on our side that are sympathetic, but you know, you only need one. Yeah. So it was very interesting to see that. And, you know, it reminded me of some other things that happened today during the cross-examination of Alicia, some other questions that Atwell was asking her, you know, do these chickens have any value to you? And she's like, I love these chickens. He asked, like, were you aware that you were being filmed during this whole thing? She's like, yeah. You know, do you want to change the law? Do you believe the law should be changed? And she's like, yeah, I think that animals should have the right to be rescued. And so, you know, that's why I think this like right to rescue narrative is so powerful. It's so good because it just makes the other side, it makes the offense look so horrible. Like these questions that they're asking her just make them look so cold and callous. Like the responses are obvious. You know, like, do you care about the chickens? Yes, I care about the chickens. Do you think the law should be changed? Obviously, yes, I think the law should be changed. Like, we have nothing to hide. Like, our side has nothing to hide. We can be completely open and honest about this and without worry. So it's, yeah, it's really interesting. And then, you know, it puts them back. It puts the prosecutors, you know, they're kind of taken aback at how open we are. Like, they don't even know how to deal with it. So, yeah, it's been really interesting. I got my notes here and I was looking through them. So this morning, there was actually a couple pretrial motion matters that happened before the opening remarks and the witnesses that came up. And there was one, again, around value that I wanted to kind of go over, where Wayne was arguing about what the jury instructions should be, and that even the prosecution in one of their motions in limine said, should the court determine value is relevant, fair market value should be the test. And so there was some back and forth with Wayne and the prosecutors and the judge about this. And the judge says, you know, shouldn't monetary value, not sentimental value, you know, be the thing here? And so Colby, for the prosecutors, gave this sob story about how he recently lost a pet and how, you know, upset that made him. And I'm not saying that he wasn't upset by that, and that's not something that he more than likely was and maybe still is upset about. But then Judge Lowe again stepped in and said, well, Foster Farms is a commercial operation and the chickens don't have any sentimental value to Foster Farms. So I thought that was really awesome. Like, the judge is kind of making an argument for us. And it, again, like, if this was a simple theft case, if we were talking about someone stealing TV or a car, we wouldn't be making these analogies. We wouldn't be talking about the conditions that they're in. Like, all of these conversations would not be being had in the court of law. So I think this goes back to something, I can't remember her name, the other attorney that's on here with us was saying about how this is a win, like, no matter what. Like, the fact that this trial's happening, these conversations are happening, is a win regardless of the outcome.
Absolutely. Really good points. I know, Dotsie, you wanted to ask the attorneys a question. Go ahead. We can have a conversation here. Don't wait for me.
Yeah. No, definitely. I've kind of wondered this since day one. So when we watch the video of them, Alicia and Alexandra rescuing the 2 chickens, we see them open the back of the truck and just grab 2 chickens, right? They're not sifting through for the sick ones. Well, we know most likely they're all sick. So will that be a very important part of the defense to prove that all of the chickens are sick? Because if they're rescuing sick chickens, but they didn't look for any specific chickens that they already knew were sick somehow, then how does that affect the case, and what will they have to prove about the chicken's illness?
Yeah, you want to start, Nathan, and we'll hear from the other attorneys after?
Sure, sure. I think it's a great point because it does stand out a bit that they grabbed what seems like the first two chickens that they were able to grab. So their state of mind matters a lot. What did they know beforehand? What kind of experience do they have? And what could they have? Maybe they were able to make an assessment within those, within that first second or two. I mean, those of us who have seen animals suffering at factory farms, it only takes about a second to know when when an animal is distressed, and then you take their experience into account. The video, the undercover DXE video, I don't think it's been ruled on yet, is important also because it gives even more context to the situation, knowing that when those birds went inside, they would receive no care. Their situation would become infinitely worse. Part of the defense here seems to be the state of mind of the defendants. Was this the intent to steal, or was this the intent to rescue? And all of that, I think, goes to their state of mind. Also,
you mentioned the video. I want to play it because this is to put all this in context. Prior to the open rescue, which the prosecution is calling a crime, by Baywatch actress Alexandra Paul and Alicia Santurio, her co-defendant, DXE, Direct Action Everywhere, had done an undercover investigation using infrared cameras to show what happens in the Foster Farm slaughterhouse. I don't want to show you too much because it can be disturbing. I want to point out that Foster Farm insists that absolutely nothing illegal was done. You take a look at the footage DXE got. So people see this, if the jury is going to see this, and we don't know if that's going to happen, but if that happens, Zara, as an activist, and I want to go to Ellen afterwards, what impact do you think that will have on the jurors?
Well, the jury has already expressed that they do care about the animal's treatment, right? So I think definitely it's going to take someone very cold not to react to that. And seeing that these birds would have been discarded anyway, not that it matters, but it would have been, it just makes the case even more ridiculous from Foster Farms. They, by saving these birds, they have protected humans, maybe even from disease, and rescuing lives. So morally, there's no doubt about what the jurors will feel if they watch this video.
Although people eat chicken, I mean, we can be kumbaya here and say, people care, but who knows how many of the jurors had a chicken sandwich for lunch, Ellen Dent.
Exactly. But I do feel that a lot of people, sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
I do feel that a lot of people would rescue a bird from the street, but then they would eat chicken. They see it differently, rescuing someone that is sick and dying from eating a chicken. So I do feel that there will be a difference in the conscience.
Okay. Thanks for your analysis. What do you say, Ellen Dent?
Yeah, I agree with Zara. Maybe this will be an opportunity for the jury to make that connection with these chickens, to see the conditions that they arrive with on the truck and the other video, and then to see what awaits them inside of the slaughterhouse. maybe it's not illegal under the law now, but it should be, and I currently have COVID. This is something that came from us, mistreating other animals, no matter where it came from, whether it was the wet market or the lab. It has everything to do with us meddling with their lives, and we need to leave them alone.
And wow, to show your dedication, you told me you had COVID. I said, no pressure to join today, but you wanted to join because this is such an important subject for you. Yes, it does also affect humans. Now, I want to go back to Curtis for 1 second. Curtis, the judge said that the jurors could ask questions. Do we know what those questions are? Do we have any hint of the kind of questions that they're asking?
No. So when I left the courtroom, the last thing that I saw was there was a sidebar. I think Wayne or Kevin objected to the line of questioning that the Atwell was going down in cross-examination, and it was like 4:23, and I was like, oh, shoot, crap, I got to get out. I got to go get on Jade's show. So that's when I left. But I noticed that the bailiff was out collecting the questions from the jurors. There was like at least 4 of them, probably more, because he was just starting to collect them as I left. But while it's still fresh on my mind, with regards to Alicia and this subject matter that we were talking about a little bit earlier, oh crap, they're all coming out of the courtroom right now. So I'm gonna yeah, y'all sure. So let me get the camera on their face.
We'll find out what happened today. Absolutely fascinating day in court. This is the first day of opening statements. There's Wayne Chung, the attorney for Alexandra Paul, and he usually stops and says a few words. There's Alexandra Paul herself, the defendant, who is the actress. Can you comment? Can they comment at all? Yeah, you can unmute yourself. Oh, how you doing? Well, what do you think today? The prosecution's case went really, really fast, didn't it?
It did. I don't think it was strong. I think we certainly impeached the cop quite a bit. Showed that, what he was saying was not credible. Oh, we fully do due diligence anytime there's a complaint about animal cruelty. And then he said, yeah, I knew about a complaint about animal cruelty, and I have no idea if anyone did anything about this. And I'm the person who's responsible for investigating what happened September 20, 2021. So we'll see. It was a good day overall. Alicia testified for the first time in her life. We're really proud of her. She did a great job.
She did a fantastic job.
I wasn't happy with my opening, but I'm never happy. So.
You did a great job. You did a really, really good job.
Thank you. I never am happy.
Our side looks very prepared and professional and passionate.
And I want to ask Wayne, or if you're going to talk, I guess you need the microphone now. We're getting all high tech with the microphones. Wayne, were you shocked that the prosecution's case went so quickly? I mean, a 5-minute open and then 2 witnesses and boom, it's done after 4 days of jury deliberation?
Yeah, I was a little surprised, but not too surprised, because we did a very good job in motion practice of arguing that some of their key witnesses and evidence needed to be excluded, and we won those motions, I think, rightfully. So, some of those witnesses may come up in rebuttal. We will see. But, they, partly because of their own, late action, just did not disclose to us the evidence they're planning to use in trial. So we got a significant amount of it excluded. So yeah, but it was bizarre, just a limited amount of evidence. I think probably the theory is it's just kind of open and shut. You look at the video, it's done. And it's our job to kind of complicate the case and help the jury understand that it's not as open shut as the prosecution thinks. And I think we're successfully doing that so far. Whether we succeed at winning before the full 12-person jury, when they start deliberating, time will tell.
Yeah, and what did the driver say? The driver, there was a police officer and the truck driver. What did the driver say?
The driver just said, I drive trucks. I was there on that day, September 28th. There were 2 women, or at least 2 women, who approached the truck and removed some chickens. I think the most interesting things he said were, it's pretty filthy. They're dead animals. And he hedged when they asked, are most of the chickens still alive when they get to the slaughterhouse? He said, I think so. I don't know. And that tells you just how much death and devastation there is in these facilities, where the driver of the truck who's taking 5,000 chickens 3 or 4 times a day is saying, I'm not even sure if most of them survive. I think that was a very good response for us. And when he said, yeah, they don't really clean the trucks. They're filthy, So just so people can understand just how brutal and disgusting this system is.
And I know, is there any way we could ask Alexandra for a word or two, but we'd have to give her the mic because Curtis has gone all high tech on us and I love it.
No. You don't need anything. She can hear you, I'm pretty sure.
Hi, Jane. How are you?
How are you? Yes. Yeah. Tell us how you thought your co-defendant Alicia did on the stand, and what about your plans to testify?
Well, Alicia's raised the bar for me, that's for sure. I am testifying tomorrow in the afternoon because we start at 1:30 tomorrow. She was terrific. She was really clear. I think the jury likes her. And, she was very clear about her love for chickens, but the fact that sick chickens are a liability to the company. And they're just, in terms of value, there's no value there for Foster Farms. She also dealt with the prosecution very well because he asked some aggressive questions and kept badgering her, but she kept her cool. She's sitting back and very relaxed. So, I need some of her good juju for tomorrow.
And were you shocked at how quickly this case has been going, considering there were 4 days of selecting a jury, and now it seems like the case is almost, halfway over?
Well, it's not halfway over because the prosecution rests, because the prosecution only had 2 witnesses, and we have quite a few more. So, we might be a third over. I wasn't surprised that the prosecution rested so quickly because they haven't put the work in that we have. I think they're going to try and just rebut us a lot. And so they didn't really they brought 2 witnesses, a cop who just took statements and a driver who didn't say anything that we would refute at all because we admit that we're there and that it was his truck.
Nathan wants to know, did jurors have questions for Alicia? And if so, what were they?
They do have questions, but we can't talk about them because we haven't answered them, and they need to be discussed tomorrow about which ones are appropriate.
Got it.
So tomorrow we can tell you.
Are you a little nervous about going and knowing you're going to testify tomorrow?
I'm nervous about testifying only because I want to make Wayne proud. So
guys, I know you're exhausted. I know it's a big day. I appreciate you taking the time to stop and talk to us. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Thank you both.
Thanks everybody for being there. We appreciate you.
Thank you. And yes. Wow, what a great attitude. Now, Dotsy, I've got to go back to you. That's your dear friend, your podcast co-host, Alexandra Paul is. What's your reaction to everything you've heard?
She's like the coolest cat I know. In fact, I have to do the podcast alone tomorrow, and I'm terrified because she just is brilliant at any oratory, anything. So I have all the confidence in the world in her tomorrow. And, she really has an incredible amount of respect and confidence in this due process. She's mentioned that many times. And I love her daily, she sends me kind of her daily favorite moment from court. And her favorite moment from Friday was all 12 jurors standing up and holding up their right hand as they were swore in to well and truly try the matters in this issue in a true verdict render according to the evidence in the law. So I know that she has a lot of confidence in the process. And because of that, I think she's going to be able to stay very calm, very cool, very collected, and answer the questions as they come thoughtfully and honestly. So I'm looking forward to tomorrow and hearing from her.
I am taking a slight turn to talk about breaking news just into our newsroom. I want to go to Donnie Moss, who has campaigned relentlessly to get Nike to stop the biggest massacre of kangaroos in history. You've got breaking news. We're all animal lovers. Let's hear it because this is history. And just like many people thought it was impossible and could never happen, as Gandhi said, It always seems impossible until it's done. Take it away, Donnie Moss. Breaking news.
Sure. Well, today Nike announced that they were going to discontinue its use of kangaroo leather, which it used to make soccer shoes. And what was so egregious, about their use of kangaroo leather is that the commercial hunters hired by Nike and other companies would hunt down these kangaroos in the dark of night, literally chase them, shoot them in the head. And some of them had joeys in their pouches or near them, and they would get either shot or bludgeoned to death as well. Or if they escaped, they would die from natural causes. So up to 2 million kangaroos are slaughtered each year for commercial purposes, about 70% of them for soccer shoes made by companies like Nike. And so the Center for a Humane Economy has been leading a global campaign for the past couple of years to compel Nike to stop using kangaroo leather. And activists in Australia and in a couple of US cities have been, Los Angeles, Portland, and here in New York City, have been disrupting inside of Nike stores. They're called the Kangaroos Are Not Shoes campaign. And 2 days from now, on Wednesday, we had our first protest scheduled at the home of a Nike board member. This was going to be the first home demo in this campaign. Her name is Michelle Peluso. She's the chair of Nike's Corporate Responsibility and Sustainability Committee. We've sent her multiple letters. I've hand-delivered letters to her apartment. She's ignored all of them. And so we were escalating with a home demo. And so I don't know if it's a coincidence or if they decided to make this announcement in an effort to prevent us from doing what would have been a very big and embarrassing protest for this Nike board member in New York City.
And of course, we invite Nike on anytime. I think it's incredible breaking news. I've seen the videos of the joeys being clubbed and as they're in their mother's pouches. And I'm like, what's wrong with humanity? This is a huge victory. Things are changing. You're right. It was Nelson Mandela who said it always seems impossible until it's done. Curtis Vollmer, the quote police on the scene there at court. Thank you. This is amazing. And I don't think it's unconnected from this, because I think what we're seeing is a cultural shift. You know, kangaroos are not shoes. Chickens are not nuggets. There is a convergence of values there. And I know you're nodding your head, Zara. What would you like to say about that?
I think we're living in such interesting times right now. Things are changing so fast. So as much as we are up against the biggest and most powerful industries, our movement and the animal welfare and the knowledge for people that are not even vegan, is growing so fast, and it's super exciting to be part of it.
Yeah.
One thing, Jane, too, on that, one thing that y'all like is Alexandra was a part of the investigations in California stores where it is illegal to sell kangaroo leather, but they were still selling them anyway. So she was a big part of that. And I think one of the ringers of this entire process, this 2-year process with Nike, is that the World Cup soccer, right, that just took place in the fall. And I have these, I'm very close to having these numbers correctly, but there were about 156 goals scored. And about 140 something of those goals that were scored with vegan leather boots, soccer boots. Whoa. So that, I think, really turned it. It's like, and that's what, we don't need to eat chicken. We don't need kangaroo shoes. And so, I mean, we know that we don't need it, but now the world sees, well, that's ridiculous. You don't need them because they was always performance, right? Is why they had these like super soft and supple, but agile kangaroo shoes. We don't need it. We don't need to use animals in anything.
And spoken like somebody who should know, who won an Olympic medal in cycling without using any animals. I want to bring everybody into this conversation.
That's not true. My shoes were made of cow leather because we don't have an alternative. So we're working on that.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yep.
You were vegan when you won.
Oh yeah. Yes. Not in the mouth, just on the feet. But
okay. All right. Well, good to know. And there's more room for progress. Christina Koo, you are an attorney, but you're also an activist. Mm-hmm. Do you see the law? Because often the law is way behind what the cultural sentiment is. But as Wayne Shung himself has said so brilliantly, the law is a living, breathing thing. What was the law. I'm not running around a chastity belt. If I don't pay my parking ticket, I'm not going to be put in stocks outside my apartment. The law changes, Christina.
Yeah, so that's actually one of the points I wanted to bring out was that, you know, the laws have been saying animals are property, are treated as property. And then you think about all the animal cruelty laws out there, right? That, you know, we have to relieve them of pain and suffering, and we have to give aid, and we can break a car's window if a dog is trapped inside. So there's like this big conflict. I mean, even amongst all the laws that we have. And then I think is exemplary of what people are thinking. They care. I think most people do care about how animals are treated, your average citizen. And so this case really exemplifies what is happening with our laws and the minds and hearts of everyday citizens. And we've got these two sort of opposite sides going on. Do we love them and give them respect and give them protection, legal protection, whatnot? And there are legal advocacy organizations like Animal Legal Defense Fund that is, you know, pursuing that end of it and calling animals as, you know, non-human, you know, beings. So there are all these fronts moving and changing how we're going to, put these aspects together. And I think this case is going to force us to go one way or another. And also, I know that since 2018, even in California for community property laws, they're obviously treating their companion animals not just as a piece of property in their marriage, but as something completely separate. It's a sentient being that they're deciding the property division. So family law is already treating this separately. And I think with this case, it's just, there are more ways to, make this progress and how we're gonna, see the conflict between laws and our feelings and hearts and for animals and well-being of others.
Very well said, Christina Koo. I want to get everybody's reaction to another little bit in court, which was Kevin Little, the attorney for Alicia Santurio. Here's what he said. It's just a little snippet.
There is little, if any, attention paid to any individual chicken. Foster Farms has an algorithm that they rely on. As long as a sufficient number of healthy chickens make it to the end of that process, what happens to those that are not sick, that are not healthy, matters little.
So Tara Melson, that was the defense arguing that Foster Farms doesn't care. Well, considering their entire company is based on killing chickens, that's not a shock. Do you think that's an effective legal argument?
I do. I also think at the end of the day, that all of the chickens are going to be slaughtered. They're all going to be used in the food preparation, and they're going to be sold to the public. I think we all know the reality that there's a lot of tainted and contaminated food that is being sold, in the marketplace. We go to supermarkets, we see it all the time. Unfortunately, we don't know, until you hear about, some large contamination that's affected a large group of people and it makes the news. At the end of the day, they know what they're doing is completely wrong. Of course, that they will do everything they can, to save face in the court of public opinion, which is, really what gets our laws to change. And I think as we're making history here, at a really pivotal time in history where I think veganism is becoming so mainstream and so widespread and accepted internationally. I think I've seen vegan products in other countries that we don't even have here. And I'm just absolutely amazed. I think it's really starting to catch on, the fact that these are our non-human counterparts, and they are equally as important as we are, to this world, if not more. So I have all the faith in this world that this jury is going to decide this case the right way.
Well, You know, I appreciate your sentiment. One of the things that I have learned covering many trials over the years is that there can be a groupthink that can be kumbaya. I saw it with the Casey Anthony case. The public, you know, she was one of the most hated women in America, if not the most hated woman in America at the time of her trial. And so everybody was cheering the prosecution case. I was one of the people, I have to say, I said I wasn't that impressed with the prosecution's opening statement. And a whole bunch of lawyers who have far more expertise than me basically said, you don't know what you're talking about, lady. Well, guess what? It wasn't that great a prosecution because she was acquitted of the serious charges. So I only say that to say that a lot of times when you have a sentiment, like with our panel here, we have a certain sentiment. We're animal lovers. We believe animals have rights. We can kind of start seeing the bright side without seeing any of the other sides. We don't know what's going to happen until the jury comes out. And one thing that is absolutely true, you can never predict a jury. And people who are absolutely convinced that they can predict the jury are often the ones that are the most shocked when the jury doesn't do what they think they should do. So I only say that to say, we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen. What's going on in court right now? Is everybody left for the day, Curtis?
Yeah, I think the people that are left here are people that are waiting for me to drive them home. But I apologies, I don't know the name of the person that just last spoke, but something they said resonated with me with regards to something that was said in court today. So one of the last things that Kevin Little said in his opening statement was he got kind of like he gathered his thoughts and stopped and kind of paused for a second. He said, "Nobody likes to be called out," and immediately, like, the prosecution objected. And he was presumably talking about Foster Farms and their conduct and everything, but it was really funny, and it's just true. Like, people don't want to be called out. People don't like being, having their dirty laundry aired, and that's not what this case is about, but it is what this case is about. You know what I mean? Like, this is a criminal petty theft prosecution, but to us and to the media and to everybody else, to Farhad Manjoo that wrote that awesome New York Times piece, like, this is about Foster Farms and these big mega corporations being exposed. So I think that is the case here.
And
early,
let
go ahead.
me say one quick thing, because you make a point with this: rescuing farm animals from cruelty should be legal. This was an article they wrote prior to the trial in the New York Times, an op-ed piece. I do have to say, and I should say this, Foster Farms told the New York Times in that piece, Foster Farms denies any wrongdoing, that allegations of inhumane treatment are without merit and a disservice to the thousands of Foster Farms team members that are dedicated to providing millions of families in the Western United States and beyond with a quality, nutritious product. That is the fallback. Let me get your response to that, Curtis, and then we'll get response from our other team members.
I mean, what explicative do you want me to use here? It's absurd. It's just it's obnoxious that they would quality, nutritious product. Like, it's disgusting. I'll pass to somebody else that hasn't spoken a lot.
I understand your position, but alas, in the United States, there are a great number of people who just accept that without questioning it. Even though, chickens are packed with cholesterol, heart disease is a leading killer in the United States. We have avian flu issues. We have climate change issues. Animal agriculture is a leading contributor to that. But those are not things that the general public is hearing about, especially not on advertiser-based media. Basically, look at the advertisers, essentially fast food and pharmaceuticals, which are the industries that rely on people eating food that has certain consequences. And this is why we started our streaming network, UnchainedTV, for this precise reason, that this conversation that we're having now should be on CNN. It should be on MSNBC. It should be on Fox News. It should be in the cover of the New York Times. But with the exception of a New York Times op-ed, it has not been. So we have to make sure, Donnie Moss, we don't over exaggerate or become sort of kumbaya about where society is right now.
Look, we still have a long way to go, obviously. I mean, if you take a walk down New York City street, and New York is one of the most progressive cities in the country, and, you know, people are dining outside. I mean, more often than not, we're looking at people who are eating animals. So we have a long way to go, which is, you know, when we were looking at the footage of the Foster Farm slaughter line, that conveyor belt with all the dead and dying chickens going around, you know, a part of me wondered if, you know, even more compelling or powerful footage would be footage sort of where you could see the actual chickens, the victims' faces. And, you know, footage inside of the factory farm, we can get a better view of the chickens, because people identify with individuals more than they do with, you know, sort of this something more abstract, which in my mind is what the slaughter footage shows. I mean, last night, Jane, one of the foreign films that was nominated for Best Film in the Oscars was a film about the life of an individual donkey, the life and the plight of an individual donkey. That movie was called EO. That was the name of the donkey. And it was so relatable. It was so powerful that it was nominated for an Oscar. And so I think if we can somehow get people to regard the animals who are on their plate as individuals, then we'll make more progress.
Absolutely. And, you know, there was sort of chatter about, well, maybe they should bring a chicken into the courtroom. But I think that that's probably not a good idea. Curtis, I see you have somebody there. Do you want to do a quick interview? Are you interested in doing? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so for those of you who may not know, this is Almira Tanner. She's the lead organizer with Direct Action Everywhere. You know, she's been pretty involved in, you know, helping the volunteers that are here and kind of managing some things here. So if y'all want to ask her any questions, she might be a good person for you.
Yes. How many people are there supporting? Great to see you, Almira. How many people are there supporting this case of supporting Alexandra? And what about these protests? I saw a couple of really extraordinary protests, people in chicken outfits. How's that going?
Yeah, it's been awesome. We've had over 30 people every day in court. On the first day, we had, I think, about 65 people joining us. But, you know, that was the big push that we made. And every day since then, there's been dozens of people in the courtroom supporting, which is wonderful. And even new people. I don't know if you talked about our new friends.
I didn't. I was trying to get to that.
There's an amazing restaurant here that's we heard had great vegan options, so we went to, and then we met two of the main staff people there who are vegan, and they were in court with us today, and they even joined a protest with us on the weekend, one of them. And so, you know, we found all the vegans in Merced, and they've come to join us, which is wonderful. And yeah, we've been protesting at the district attorney's office because, as you know, we've been like what we want to see happen is not just Alicia and Alexandra found not guilty. Like, we actually want these animals to be helped. We want the district attorney to do their job and actually prosecute foster farms or end, you know, ideally make them stop abusing animals, which would basically be, you know, stop their entire business model, because that's what their business model is. They can make, you know, nuggets made out of soy protein or something. That's cool. And yeah, so we've been there, and then we were out here a little bit. Got to be careful outside of the courthouse because we want to make sure the jurors aren't influenced one way or another. We were at Costco on the weekend, and we'll be back at the DA's office tomorrow.
Wow. And are you surprised at how quickly the case is moving now that we've gotten past, what was it, 4 days to achieve a jury, and then boom, it's so quick. What happened? And please, anybody who has questions, jump in and ask.
Yeah. Like, I think that the opening statement was 3 minutes. It was like the shortest. I mean, in Utah, there wasn't much of a case put on by the prosecution either, but their opening statement was long and there was a narrative. I mean, I didn't agree with it, but this was the shortest opening statement I've ever heard. I would be shocked if it was more than 3 minutes. We can time it.
And what about Wayne's opening statement? Just to give us a summary.
Wonderful. He had a PowerPoint. He talked about how this case is about, as if anybody knows Wayne, there's always going to be 3 things. And there's 2 no's and a yes. That's the premise that he started with, that no, there wasn't any intent to deprive foster farms of anything of value. You know, no, these chickens had no commercial value to foster farms. And yes, this was a rescue. And he kind of just went through that. So obviously I'm biased, but I think even objectively, it was a more, even if you don't agree with the facts, it was just like a better presented argument than the prosecution. And yeah, I don't know how everything's landing on all of the jurors, but some of the jurors seem pretty sympathetic. I think when I noticed one of them visibly go like that when Wayne mentioned that birds are scalded alive at the slaughterhouse for the first time. And yeah, they seem to be listening intently, and they've asked questions, and maybe tomorrow we'll be able to share what those are.
Yeah, and who has questions for Almira? She's the head of DXC, the lead organizer, as it were. Any questions?
Sure. So, Almira, do you still want folks to be calling and emailing the Merced District Attorney Nicole Silveira?
Yeah, I don't think it hurts. I it's been hundreds of people and she hasn't done anything, but why not call her again? You could even call, if you've already called, maybe wait a few days and say, hey, I called and asked about what you're doing with criminal animal cruelty. Like, has your office looked into this at all? I think the answer is going to be no, but I'll be pleasantly surprised. So I think it's worth it to keep calling.
There are a lot of viewers watching Unchained TV, so I hope they all get a chance to participate in this. Even if they can't be there physically to support the trial, they can support in other ways.
Yes, and you know what? We'll put up the email tomorrow because we're going to be covering this tomorrow as well. Thank you, first of all, Almira, for all your incredible work and organization, getting us some footage from inside the court, which we have Unchained TV camera there, getting that footage, as well as Curtis Vollmer, who is our reporter on scene. I want to get final thoughts from everybody, but we'll be back tomorrow. I'm going to play that video tomorrow of the other rescue that Alicia did. And let's get final thoughts from everybody. Curtis, maybe you give your final thoughts since we're with you right this second.
It's all very exciting, and I'm really excited to see what unfolds tomorrow. And yeah, I think it's just it's a win that this is just even happening, and it's getting so much attention. And Jane, you're putting it out there, and we're getting press in mainstream news, and these arguments, animals are persons, are being heard in court. This is just really awesome. It's great to be, this is the forefront of history that's happening right now. And I guess the last couple things that you could do in addition to contacting Nicole Silveira, the DA here in Merced, would be to follow the trial Twitter page if you're not already. That's where, we're running out of the courtroom in between breaks to live update tweets. So if you want to be up to the minute on what's going on, please follow at Foster Farm Trial on Twitter. And then you can, if you want to watch all of the long videos, we're uploading those at night onto the YouTube page, the Direct Action Everywhere YouTube page. So if you want to follow along, please follow along on those things. And again, thanks, Jane, for putting this panel together, and thanks everyone else for being here.
Thank you, Curtis. You're amazing. I say all these folks who are out there covering the trial, they're going to be snapped up by a network, except they won't let you talk about animal rights. Chloe put this in. Here's the information I promised tomorrow, but I can get it right here. Merced District Attorney Nicole Silveira, and ask her politely to prosecute foster farms, not animal rescues. There's her email and there's her phone number. And again, we invite foster farms on anytime. They have insisted in numerous public statements that they have done absolutely nothing illegal, and they have an open invitation. We would love to dialogue with them. Let's get some final thoughts in here. Why don't we start with Ellen Dent?
I'm just hopeful that this trial will help people reprogram themselves, starting with the jury, starting with the wonderful arguments from the defense, because I believe their case is going to be so much stronger. And I hope that they'll make that connection and realize that these are individuals on these trucks and they deserve to live and they deserve to be rescued from these horrible conditions. I mean, you heard what the driver said, that they're covered in their own feces and that many of them die on the way. I mean, I don't know how much more compelling evidence the jury needs that these chickens are in dire need when they pull up on these trucks to the slaughterhouse. And then if they're able to see that slaughterhouse video, it's going to be incredible how that will affect them. And I believe that Foster Farms is leaning on people to, keep thinking of them as products. So I'm hoping that, the defense are able to get rid of that lie and, show that they are every bit as sentient as we are.
And thank you for that, Ellen. Feel better. What a trooper. She got COVID, also a mother, and she said, no, I'm going to be there no matter what. Wow. Amazing. All right. Next, Dotsie Bausch, final thought for the evening.
Well, you have a lot of people listening tonight. I think for the people that are listening that are maybe still eating animals or chicken, eating animals is old school. It is over. These chickens, as Jane mentioned, they're filled with disease and viruses, cholesterol, saturated fat, salt water, feces. The list goes on. And bro science is over. And that says that we need animal protein to be healthy and strong. We need protein for sure, but it does not have to come from another living being ever. My dinner tonight that is being prepared, I think by my husband in the kitchen, is a sweet potato covered with massaged kale. He's going to put a lot of lentils on there, cup of lentils probably, and my personal favorite, tahini drizzle on top. This has 1.5 times the protein of a breast of chicken, and tahini has double the amount of calcium than the same amount of dairy. So it's over. Move over to plants.
You are making me hungry. And I have to say that one of the reasons why so many companies are under attack right now, vegan companies like Beyond Meat. And I was just at an event where I saw Ethan Brown, the founder of Beyond Meat. And I said, wow, you're really doing something, because the big guns are coming after you, because now you're a threat. And so this is all part of the culture war involving animal rights. Your final thought, Tara Melson, attorney at law.
Hi. I guess I'll just conclude by saying I'm really pleased with all of the information on what's transpired today. I think that it's all positive, and I'm just so happy that this is in the public domain. And I think after this is over, the world will really hear what has really happened here. And I think it's going to really create a larger conversation among the non-vegan community. The other point that I wanted to make was, the video showing Alexandra and Alicia taking the chickens from the truck. In my opinion, that's just not a good look at all. If you pay attention to the audio, you can really hear how distressed the chickens, the two chickens are. You can actually hear them as the women are running, and how distressed they are when they're placed in the car. They are freaked out. They are probably having, lots of anxiety, panic attack, very much the same emotions that we humans feel if we were put in that situation. They are terrified for their lives. And I think that this is not a good look for the prosecution at all. And I think that this really, really is going to be key in touching, the members of the jury and making this an extremely emotional and compelling case. That's how I feel.
Well, that might be one of the reasons why the defense played it as opposed to the
That's
prosecution.
exactly what I thought. Yeah.
Donnie Moss, final thought.
Yeah, if the prosecution's main witness is a truck driver for Foster Farms who said that the trucks are filthy, I don't remember the exact words, I'm paraphrasing, and that he doesn't even know how many of the chickens are alive at the time they arrive at the slaughterhouse, then the jury must be asking themselves, this is the best they can do? This is the best case that they can make against these defendants? It sounds to me like that truck driver was a witness for the defense, and that's a good thing.
Yes, absolutely. And once again, congrats on your incredible, unbelievable achievement.
It was one small person in a very, very big campaign. That just happened to be
very loud person. I've seen the videos. I saw your Nike in-store protests. I could testify in a court of law. You're the loudest person.
Not as loud as you, despite my best efforts.
No one is.
All right, Zara, your final thoughts, activist.
I think just the fact that the jurors are gasping at the information that's coming out is incredibly powerful. And I think that we as activists and vegans, we see this every day. So we know this information is commonplace for us. But for people that are not necessarily in this day to day like we are, it's going to be news. And I think we're going to be managing to turning some of these juror members towards more of a plant-based diet, hopefully. I mean, it's going to open the eyes for them and for everyone else that's witnessing this trial as to what's actually going on behind these closed doors and why Foster Farms is trying so hard to keep everything secret.
All right. Thank you so much. Nathan Semmel, final thoughts.
You know, it sounds to me like the defense did a surgical job today and checked a lot of boxes. First of all, they humanized their clients. They told the story of the clients and who they are and why they do what they do. You know, a lot of times criminal cases, it's just you hear about an indictment, you hear about the charges, and there's a lot of legalese, and the humanity is lost. And the defense, it sounds like, is doing the right thing by their clients and showing the jury who these people are. And they're not afraid, they're not hiding that from the jury. And they went a step further. They presented Ethan and Jax as individuals. You know, despite the fact that I think, you know, unfortunately, the masses are still eating animals, I really think that, you know, to a person, nobody wants to see animal cruelty. You know, there's cognitive dissonance that goes on. But when you can present these chickens as individuals, that's a big box to check off. And, you know, the use of their names, I think, is just masterful. I also really, you know, a great defense tactic is to steal the prosecution's thunder. Don't be afraid of the case. And so what is the prosecution is trying to simplify this case, making it about a 45-second video, and that's it, putting on a 3-minute opening at best. So what does the defense do? They show the video. They're not afraid of it. Why are they not afraid of it? Because they made the video and they posted the video. They're not going to hide from it. And they're saying to the jury, we're proud of this video because, you know what, we're not stealing. We're not looking to deprive a mega corporation of 2 chickens. And we're certainly not looking to, you know, we're not in the business of stealing and keeping chickens. We're rescuing. That's what we're doing.
That's a good point. If they were in the business of stealing, they might want to keep the chickens. One tragically died, another's at an undisclosed sanctuary. This is Jax at an undisclosed sanctuary where he's living his best life. Christina Koo, final thoughts.
So, you know, we have to remind everyone that in a criminal case, I mean, it's the prosecution's burden to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. And there's certain things for a criminal, you know, a crime, which is the defendant must have the state of mind of stealing. And I think that is what Wayne is trying to show that is missing here. These 2 folks were not stealing. They had a good faith belief that they were doing the right thing. They were provided information previous that they obtained, that the right to rescue and help injured animals is lawful or is defensible. So I think that's a big problem with the case. But just for me personally, seeing this whole case, I feel like whether you're an animal lover or not, or you have no morsel of empathy towards animal, at least you can act on this as a consumer. Obviously, you are being marketed a product that is supposed to be safe and treated well and healthy and treated humanely. And we're seeing evidence that it's clearly not. And so for any consumer of this product, they have a right to speak up. They have a right to not support this product. They have a right to complain, for even just general consumers. So wherever you are in the spectrum of society, there is space in this movement to do something. If you're a vegan, if you're an animal rights advocate, you can certainly continue to support this movement. And if you're not, you should pursue your rights as a consumer and not support this product for your own health and for the health of your family, and not buy and consume this product.
I want to thank everybody. My final thought is I'm so grateful to you, and I'm grateful for the people watching. We're going to be back tomorrow. And again, the reason we do this, the reason that we have this free nonprofit streaming network for animal lovers, which you can download for free on your phone, just go to your app store, write in Unchained TV, one word. You can also watch it on your Amazon Fire Stick, on your TV, via your Roku device, via your Apple TV device, soon to be on all Samsung televisions. We did this because I was in mainstream media for 40 years, and I had to fight like a ninja to get any kind of coverage of these kinds of stories on. And did make a lot of friends in the process in the newsroom, because look at the advertisers. You don't have to have somebody knocking on your door saying, don't talk about the cruelty to animals. All you have to do is, if you have half a brain, you look at the people keeping the lights on. Okay. So we need to do an end run around the mainstream media blackout on this issue. DXE is doing a great job poking holes, getting the New York Times, the Los Angeles Times, the Intercept, Vox, and all these other great publications to cover it. We're getting somewhere. I don't know who said this, Curtis, but it's hard to judge progress in real time, but we are making progress. Thank you so much. See you next time here on Unchained TV. Download the app. We will see you tomorrow at 4:30 p.m. Pacific, 7:30 Eastern. Please join us. Thank you.